Hello and welcome to a very special Indo GA Christmas podcast with the one and only John Mullane. John, how we doing?
All right, Verney, been a long time.
You're under a bit of pressure physically, are you?
Yeah, a bit under the weather now. I don't know whether I've a touch of that super flu that's going around or whatever now, but the last week or so now, I've touched of that. The head ain't 100% right, I can tell you. You can even feel it in my throat and all that. So bear with me, we'll get through it.
No one understands just how bad the man flu is, really, do they? Like it's something very, very unique.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is going on. Look, it's the time of year too. Kids are carrying everything, and I suppose we're not outdoors as much as we would be during the course of the year, course of the summer, even course of the spring. So look, we'll get through it.
Quick one for you. Any big games you ever played where you were badly under the weather and struggling? And how difficult is it, or how did you manage it?
Yeah, well, the biggest regret I have is the 2007 All Ireland semi final. Um, should never play that match. I caught the vomiting virus, the real heavy vomiting virus going around that summer, and geez, I'm looking back, a mistake. I mean, it was an uncle of mine. He was in hospital down in Wexford. Lo and behold, I went down and to visit him on the Friday before we played Cork. The first match against Cork, and I remember coming back down on the train that day, that evening after the match, and didn't feel 100% right, and but I kind of felt it was very warm that day, and I kind of put it down to kind of dehydrated, and even coming down the train, I remember saying herself coming down the train with me, and I was saying I don't feel 100%, and I got off the train, and her sister was collecting us from the train station, and we're after drawing the match, and I remember getting out of the car and vomiting all over the place.
Lord.
All that night, vomiting Sunday into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And a good few of the lads kind of had a touch of it as well. I think Kelly could have had it. I think was it there was Tom Fee, there was three or four, or could have been Owen Murray. There was three or four lads had a touch of it. Now, obviously, I think the lads kind of got antibiotics. So I tried to avoid the antibiotics. So I kind of said like I'll recover in my own time. But geez, I remember even going up the following week to play against Cork, and wasn't 100% right at all. Actually, look, I wasn't after eating right.
Yeah.
Wasn't after training that week. Felt really weak within myself, and actually I was taken off that day, and then probably going into the following week then against Limerick. Still one after recovering, like, you know what I mean. When you get hit with a virus, it can.
What sort of weight did you lose? You were probably a stone
I'd
lighter.
say I'd lost the bones of nearly 10, 11 kg, maybe a stone. I was very, very weak, and whatever about a club level, most certainly at inter-county, you probably got to be true to yourself and say, well, look, you know what, I'm not going to take to the field, because when you cross those white lines, the people that are watching on the TV, the people that are watching on the stand, they see you as 100% fit,
Yeah.
and they don't see what's going on behind closed doors, or what you've been through the week before, or 2 weeks previous. But that's probably the one biggest regret that I did have looking back, is that I did kind of tell Justin, and kind of made Justin aware of it going into the Cork game, and I thought that I'll get through it,
Yeah.
and you were kind of we're on the crest of a wave. We were only a match away from getting to the All Ireland final. But no, I should have been held my hand up and said, you know what, I'm not 100%, man. Leave Shane well. Shane Welch was going well at the time, or even Shane Casey was going well at the time. And yeah, it's a big regret, and it backfired on me that day against Limerick.
It's
I was I was beaten up all ends of the stick by Seamus that day. Seamus,
Oh, Jesus, the last man you wanted to be coming up against, full of energy, full of beans, James Hickey, mad for road.
And actually, we actually played on in the Munster final, and I probably got the better of him in the Munster final, and I thought, right, yeah, I'd probably fancy my chances again. But
Oh, but Mull,
Jesus,
he's the sort of lad you'd have to be. You'd have to be like
yeah,
you at
yeah.
100% and him at 100%. No problem. Like that'd be a right matchup. But
Yeah, well, and looking back in it, I'd say he probably had the bit between his teeth after the Munster final. Obviously, if when you're marking a lad and the lad is getting the better of you, you are grinding the teeth and say, geez, you know what, I'd love another crack at him the next day
yeah,
if we do meet. And most certainly he did have the bit between his teeth that day because he hurled me up a stick that day.
I played.
No, I'm not making
Yeah.
any
No,
excuses.
no, no. You've mentioned that
You know,
before. Yeah, we played Leinster College's final. Oh, what year was it? I'm gonna say it was '05. I think it was '05. And I had a chest infection. We were doing the mocks in school, and I had a chest infection a week out. And I tell you something, I got the good stuff. I got the good stuff from the doctor. My God, I felt like I could go through a brick wall by the time the game came around. Felt like there was no feeling of sickness at all. It was the opposite. It was I was built back up and sure.
yeah, Chad, but looking back in that, like at Inter-County, I mean, you have to be.
Oh, you couldn't get away with that like that either.
No,
No.
no, you have to be mindful
Yeah.
of what you're being prescribed because was there one of the Kerry footballers
That's
or
right.
something?
Yeah.
He got pulled in for taking something that he might have been a bit under the weather. So like you are mindful of that as well back in the day,
Totally.
saying right, Jesus, because like back in the day, Jesus, an injection, Tom Higgins, an injection just meant nothing.
Yeah.
If you had a broken finger, inject the finger there, or if your hip was or your shoulder, just inject that. Like, you're looking back, you're kind of going, Jesus, how many injections did we get back in the day? Cortisone injections just to kind of numb the pain, get you through the match, like, and in later life, you probably do pay the price for it. I can only imagine what the likes of poor Ken McGrath's going through. Jesus,
Yeah.
right? Every second week he was getting an injection, but that was just an arm back then. Like, I'd say Tom Higgins had a pain in his head. There was, and that was just get an injection just to get you through the match if you were feeling anyway down or you were 50% off or if you had if you were coming back if you were up there straining anything or in regards to muscle. But in regards taking medication, you had to be totally on your toes in regards and very mindful of what you
Yeah.
took. And to be fair to Dr. Mark Rowe, and Dr. Higgins, they kind of go, well, hold on a minute, can't prescribe you that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
The weekend that was gone was the Kamogie Mull. We'll come back to that in a minute. But the weekend coming up, I don't know about you, but to have this caliber of game on these caliber games on the eve of Christmas is some treat. And unfortunately, hands up, I'd like to apologise here. I'm going to bring up bad memories again. I was looking back on the 2011 semi-final there only during the week between yourselves and Clarenbridge. Oh my God, it was just what an absolutely crazy game. You played in two, Mull, won one, lost one. Am I right in saying 2 All-Ireland semi-finals?
yeah, we three opportunities, won 3 county championships, and we lost the Munster Club final, the Tourists. But the one that we did win, we weren't, as I touched on a couple of weeks ago, we weren't expected to.
Yeah.
We weren't just on the crest of a wave, won the county championship, won the Munster Club, weren't expected to do anything in Munster. And then we came up against Cushendall up in Parnell Park. Oh, by God, that was one titanic battle. As I said, that's when we got introduced to Neil McManus on Kevin Moore. And that was a cracking game. We went to extra time. I think it was a draw, and then it went to extra time, and we got out by the skin of our teeth by a point or two. And even I can still, it still rings in my ears. Even the noise the Cushendall support has generated that day. Our support has generated because we brought up a big crowd.
They're savage, though, Mull. We played Dunleigh several times. It is something else, like.
Oh, they probably bring it to another level, like, in regards, the volume that they bring, and that's why it's going to be a tricky tie for Loughrea playing Slaughtneil up in Parnell Park, because you well know it's a difficult venue to come out and to try and express yourself. It's very tight, and we were pushed to the pin of our collar that day, and we got over the line, and then the one that kind of I think it'll haunt me for the rest of me years. Will be that game against Clarenbridge. I just thought after we won the Munster Club, because we beat a really really strong Thurles Sarsfields team who are probably in their prime, and I probably felt that probably Thurles were probably the best team in the country, back then, and we were just after getting over the line against them, and I just felt we were primed to push on and win the All Ireland. And look, that game against Clarebridge, that just took on a life of its own. As I just touched on before, it was just like a boxer just hitting another boxer, and they're just hitting them and they're hitting them, and this boxer's on the ropes, and you're just saying, he's hanging in there. Will you ever go down? And he just comes back, and he just hits you with that sucker punch, and then hits you with the sucker punch. Then, and time runs out and time goes against you, and you don't have enough time to react, to try and get an equalising point. And obviously we all know what happened at Vineland. Clarenbridge pushed on and won the final comprehensively against.
That made it hurt a lot more, I'm sure.
Oh, it did absolutely. When you're looking on, and that's the most difficult thing. And watching the club games the last couple of weeks, a lot of the I was listening to a couple of the Dingle players, and teams that have it's probably their first time, that they don't be here too often, and they're probably the one thing that they are hiding is that, look, we might never be back here again. And I just felt even back in after being beaten by Clarenbridge, I was kind of saying, well, Jesus, that could be our opportunity missed. Now, obviously, we probably had another year or two left in our window of opportunity, because you do get a window when you have a good team. You get probably a 5-6 year window, but our window was closing and trying to get over the line and try and win an All Ireland. But they're hard to win. They're very very hard to win, and I mean, you look at Ballygunner. Ballygunner have been totally dominant in Munster since 2018, and they've only managed to win one All Ireland semi-final within those five wins in 5 Munster wins. So they'll be really going gung-ho to try and set the records, try and get back to another final.
Just on that game, well, like, it's gas. Like, Ballygunner are the only one of the four that have actually won the Tommy Moore and taken it home, and it's gas. Even looking at that Ballygunner St Martin's game, Ballyhale have only been beaten twice in Croke Park, for all records I can find anyway, in their history, and it was Ben Stafford and Harry Ruddle, basically last minute kind of heroes. The two times, 2022 All Ireland final was Ruddle, and Ben Stafford was the last day, and they're obviously coming up against each other at the weekend. Jason Ryan, who's Ballygunner manager, was a coach or selector with Wexford the last couple of years. He'll know the Martins lads inside out. I'm sure they've played regularly in challenge games, given their proximity so close together. This is a fascinating game. Just on the Martins as well, the Martins had some win in the Leinster final. Just what a game, like, particularly for the time of the year and everything, and it was right down to the last minute. Ballyhale had themselves a point up with time nearly up, and the Martins just found a bit more. But on the balance of things, they probably deserved to win. I thought they were 3 or 4 points better.
They did, and to be fair to him, after kind of a slow start as well, were they 5-6 points, 6 points down, and when Owen Cody scored that goal, you're kind of going, saying, right, are Ballyhale going to push on and open up the gap even more? But you got to give great credit to the Martins. I thought what I did like about the Martins was their structure, and I think that's why I would give them a chance the weekend, because I think they are structured right to go and take on Ballygunner. They obviously go with the extra body at the back, and they kind of flood that middle third, and they go with the two up top. They are very aggressive in the tackle as well. I think that will be another thing that will stand them the weekend. And probably the last thing is that they're very fit. Oh, yeah. Very, very fit. Whoever their strength and conditioning coach is this year, or has been the last 2 years, they're finishing games very, very strong. And then look, they have game winners in the likes of the O'Connors. Now obviously they're probably going to need a bit more than probably Jack and Rory when you go back to that game against Ballyhale. I mean, they accounted for about 17 points.
Just on Jack O'Connor, Mull, right? You score 6 points in a Leinster final. Martins win Leinster for the first time, and then he gets married the following Friday. Some week for him.
Ah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And people are saying, is it kind of after is it after kind of getting in the way
Wouldn't think
of
so.
their preparation? I totally disagree. I think it adds to it. I think it's you know I can only imagine the Martins, the players, I mean, like, they're not going to really lose that. Like, there would have been what they would have gained. They would have playing that match against Ballyhale. That will bring them on tenfold. It will bring them on tenfold in the belief that they can now push on, and possibly beat Ballygunner and possibly push on and win an All Ireland. And I just think it adds to the whole feel good factor. I mean, we always relate back to the feel good factor and the spirit in a group. And I mean, if you would have told Jack O'Connor at the start of the year that you'll win a county championship, you'll win a Leinster club, and you'll get married the week after, I mean, he would have taken the hand and the arm off you. So I think it just adds to the whole feel good factor. I can imagine there last week, training on the Tuesday, training the Thursday, wedding, few beers with the lads, enjoying yourself. I think that adds to it, and I think
Yeah, because they were never going to go and play an in-house game on the Sunday anyway. Do you know what I mean? Really?
No,
You know what I mean?
no, and I just think that brings it kind of, it will make their spirit even grow even more, and I think it will stand to them even more going into this weekend against Ballygunner. Plus, it was on the Friday, probably enjoyed themselves on the Saturday. I can imagine then they were back training on the Sunday or the Monday. So, I'd even know Willie Cleary. Willie Cleary would have trained us now.
Good operator.
Willie, and I'm actually delighted for him because he is a very, very, very good operator. Probably doesn't get the recognition he deserves for what he's had to give him to the game over the years. But he is a fair operator now, and they will really look forward to taking on Ballygunner the weekend. And
They match up well, Mull, don't they?
They do. It's going to be a fascinating affair. They have a couple of touch type backs as well to maybe go and, I wouldn't say totally negate the likes of Desi and Patrick Fitzgerald up top. But that middle third, as I just touched on, Ballygunner like to flood that middle third of bodies. They're kind of nearly a mirror of one another in how they set up. So it's going to be a fascinating affair, particularly out around that middle third where there's just going to be bodies everywhere.
Yeah, one player I really like for Ballygunner, Mull, and I think he's been injured in recent years, Aaron O'Neill. Just woeful impressed with him. He's a fair unit now, a cornerback. I'd probably be expecting him to pick up Barry O'Connor. I couldn't get over the physicality of Barry O'Connor when I saw him in that Leinster final. He's like an old school centre forward in soccer, holding up the ball, and it makes some difference for the ball, for it to be difficult for the back to come out with the ball. I think that could be one really, really fascinating duel. And just on Ballygunner as well, Mull, like the fact that they've only won one semi-final, that this crew have only won one semi-final, like that is, they've underachieved at national level. I think it's fair enough to say that. And if Desi wants a bit of motivation, I'll give him a bit of motivation. He loves a bit of motivation, so I'll give it to him. I do think they've underachieved at national level. The time Thomas has beat them, even in the semi-final, they were heavy favourites going into it. They've been favourites. Borris were massive underdogs the time they played them down in Limerick as well. They have to get back to the final. Like, they'll be gung-ho to get back to the final.
Yeah, and particularly with Ballyhale, gone out of the equation. They'll probably see it as a good opportunity of pushing on and claiming a second All Ireland. And I think a lot of these players, a lot of this team, they are driven to add to their success. I mean, they've broken all records in Waterford. They've broken all records in Munster. And I think the one missing part of the jigsaw is probably, as you just touched on, is, adding to that one at national level. And, as of now, the 4 teams that are left, you would fancy him, because I still believe that they're probably, out of the 4 teams left, they're probably the best balanced side, and they have, a couple of players to come off the bench that can change a game as well. And I go back to it. The last time that they got a fright in Waterford was back when they won the All Ireland. Was it 2022? Was the last time they won the
Yeah,
All
it would
Ireland?
have been 2021
Yeah,
in Waterford.
Mount Sion should have beaten them in the semi final, and we possibly should have beaten them in this year's semi final. But when you go and poke a bear, it just goes to show you, how driven this group are and how focused they are. When they do get a fright, they seem to kick on again. That was evident even in the Munster club, that they were probably sore from last year after being beaten by Cork Sarsfields. They set the record straight there, and they set the record straight in winning the Munster club final. So yeah, it's a really good game to look forward to the weekend up in Thurles. I think Thurles as well probably will favour Ballygunner, because let's be fair, they've played there so much. They've played there recently a couple of weeks ago, so I think that will probably stand them as well.
Can I just say on Desi as well, like every time Desi's interviewed, he says we're written off, or he finds some crumb of motivation. I love that, because like they're serial winners. You have to be finding an edge. It's hard to kind of stay motivated, but if you're like, reading something and you're looking for motivation, you can always find it. Do you know what I mean? There's always little bits. Oh, the way he said that,
but isn't it that the majority of players? Oh, look, we don't listen to outside.
yeah.
We don't read the papers. We don't listen to social media. We're in our own little bubble. So it just goes to show you, players do listen to outside noise, and as you said, they lean on anything, and they go after anything, as you just touched on, to motivate them to push on, and look for that edge that will drive them on to the success.
I'll tell you a good one, Mull, quickly before we move on. I was doing a podcast years ago, video podcast, and we were talking through the Galway Championship, and it was at maybe the group stages or whatever, and I said something along the lines of this. I said, there's a train of thought in Galway that St Thomas's are finished. And I said, but I don't agree with that at all. And I went on to say why or whatever. But it was clipped out. There's a train of thought in Galway that St Thomas's are finished. And it ended up in various WhatsApp groups, shall we say, around Galway. And they ended up going to win the county championship last year, and I was out in the field, or that year, and I was out in the field looking for an interview, and one lad in particularly turned on me because this clip had obviously got into their WhatsApp group. And like, it was nearly almost like I was the poster boy of people that were writing Thomas's off. And it's funny what people will look at or look for any little bit. And because they think,
but and I'm going to defend Dalo here. I mean, Dalo didn't say
not at all,
anything out of place. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have an opinion. You have an opinion. I have an opinion. When it's caught up to a big match, you're going to give your opinion on a team or both teams. You're going to give your opinion on how the game plays out, what the end result is going to be. So I think, to be fair, in Dalo's defence, he didn't say a whole lot wrong.
No, they were looking for something, and they found it, obviously. Yeah.
But I just thought, well, surely sometime now, Desi will just say, look, Dalo, I didn't.
Yeah, of course he will. Yeah, of course he will. The other semi-final, quickly, Mull, I was chatting to Tommy Kelly yesterday. I hadn't actually realised that he was involved in Coola's two. Tommy Kelly, the Loughrea manager, he was involved in Coola's 2 All-Ireland wins under Matty Kenny. He was involved with Clare under Jerry O'Connor and Donald Maloney. He was involved in Dublin under Matty Kenny. He's gone back to his home club in Loughrea. He's there 4 years now. They've won 2 in a row, which had never been done before. They're my favourites for the All-Ireland, being honest with you. I think after last year's semi-final,
would you have made a Ballygunner?
I would, yeah. No, I would, yeah. And now a lot of that is to do even with odds wise. I think their value, shall we say, because let's call a spade. Maybe this will be clipped out, but Ballygunner have found a way not to get over the line in previous years. I think Loughrea are the coming side. They were beaten by Nafina by a point last year. Probably played better. on that day. That's not to say that they're not going to get it fairly tough in Parnell at the weekend. They definitely are. And they're coming up against the Slaughtneil team. I think this is their 6th semi-final, and they haven't got, they haven't jumped that fence. They'll be absolutely mad to jump the fence. And even getting Chrissy McCaig back this year is a big, big bonus. I think Loughrea will just about survive, and I think they'll thrive when they get to Crow Park. But I think Loughrea are going to be hard beaten. What are your own thoughts on that semi-final quickly?
Well, the bookies have Slaughtneil as massive outsiders. I mean,
Yeah.
Slaughtneil out of the 4 teams are 10-1. 10-1, like it's massive odds. Like, I mean, I don't think. I think that's being disrespectful to Slaughtneil.
It's funny because people are using the odds as motivators now as well.
Yeah, well, look, geez, if you were 10-1, I mean, what are they? They're 5-2 to beat Loughrea the weekend. If Loughrea survive the weekend against Slaughtneil, and they are going to be pushed to the pin of their collar, and if they come out alive against Slaughtneil and they survive that test, they will be in a very, very good position going into the final. Now, look, I haven't seen outside of last year's match against Nafina, where they were extremely unlucky. I watched a bit of the Galway County final, and look, to do back to back in Galway, is fair going, like, particularly when you're coming up against the caliber teams that they're coming up against. But yeah, look, they have the personnel up top. They've Tiernan Clean, Shaughnessy, like the look of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was some goal in the county final, wasn't it?
That goal that he got in the county final, very, very impressive. Now, as I said a couple of weeks ago, you asked me one team, I would have went with Loughrea because they've the shortcut of getting to an All Ireland final. And look, if they win one match and they're going to be in an All Ireland final, in contrast to the road that even say Slaughtneil had to go down, the Marins had to go down, Ballygunner had to go down. Now that can stand you as well because the last couple of weeks they've got games under their belt. They're probably more battle hardened going into these semi-finals. But look, I probably would slightly favour Loughrea, given the personnel that they have up top, but I don't think it's going to be by a big margin. I think it'll be by the smallest of margins, maybe 2 or 3 points, and I wouldn't rule out this one going to extra time either,
Yeah, I just think they need to survive, and I think if they survive and get to the final, I think they have a great show. That'll be in Crow Park I think it's the 18th of January. All bets are off. Completely different game in Crow Park, obviously, than Parnell Park. It's chalk and cheese. But Mull, sorry to bring up bad memories now. The Kamogie final was at the weekend. Attenry and
St Finbarrs.
St Finbarrs, and I shouldn't have forgotten Finbarrs because they were the ones that broke your hearts in the Munster final. I know you're an emotional man and you take it all to heart. That was a sore one in the Munster final. And what is it with your ladies always play? I think like every game you play is nearly an epic. It's always this big high scoring thriller. But that must have been a sore one to take to lose that Munster final.
Yeah, and look. But it was, and well, you couldn't have foreseen that girl Katie Wall getting in for that goal. But you have to give great credit to St Finbarrs. You can say that we were extremely unlucky, but at the end of the day, Finbarrs got what they deserved because they kept hurling to the end. And they've been doing that the last 3 or 4 matches that I watched them. They did it against Newcastle West. They were 2 points down going into the closing stages of that match in extra time, and they pulled it out of the bag against Lougheed Shamrocks in the All Ireland semi-final. I mean, however, whatever way we felt, I can only imagine what way the Lougheed Shamrocks management and ladies were feeling watching the weekend, because for me, I most certainly thought they were the better team against St Finbarrs, and they should have beaten St Finbarrs. You know, 'cause they had a lot of opportunities in that match. That was a cracking game of camogie up in up in Ashbourne. But again, St Finbarrs, they found a way, and they've been doing it all year. They've, finding a way. And again, the weekend they probably got a piece of their own medicine in regards. You know, to be fair to them, they probably should have closed out the match. They were 6 points up, 57 minutes. Their game management, they'll probably question their game management. They probably, when you're 6 points up in camogie, you know, it's a commanding lead. Keep the magic number in camogie at a high level, whether it be club or inter-county, seems to be that 15, 16 point mark, particularly at club camogie, because, it can be a tad difficult, more difficult to score than regards to the men's game, and the fences seem to be on top, and they hit that kind of magic number of 15 points. And when you consider that they were 6 points up, and it was 15 points to 9, you couldn't have foreseen what we've foreseen in the last 5-6 minutes, going off of what my eyes and your eyes had seen the previous 57 minutes, because Attenroy were very, very wasteful in attack, left an awful lot of scores behind, and St Finbarrs were far more efficient up top, and it looked like they could find the scores a tad more easier. But great credits to Attenroy.
What about Tresmar? Tresmar,
man. I mean,
I should say, yeah. Jesus Christ, at 44.
She's 45. 1980, yeah, three kids. I mean, she's an inspiration to any young girl coming up that aspires to want to push on and play camogie. If Katie was sitting on the couch 15 years, I said to Katie, gee, you're only another 30 years to go now to catch up on her. So, but that goes to show you. I mean, to be player of the match in All Ireland final. One battle I really, really loved the weekend was Dervla Higgins on Orla Callahan. I mean, that was so matchup, and I thought, Orla Callahan, she clipped Dervla Higgins for a couple of scores, but I thought in the last 10-15 minutes when it was going against Attenroy, I thought Higgins was brilliant. She really stood up, drove Attenroy forward. She's a player that's really, really after growing on me the last 2-3 years. Tough, attacking player, and go through a wall. And I thought she was the one that kind of, when Attenroy were struggling and were looking for leaders in that last quarter, Therese Maher obviously was the standout one. She got player of the match, but she was backed up by Dervla Higgins. And it's a replay now to really look forward to. I thought maybe in the aftermath of saying, Jesus, could they have not have played 2 periods of extra time? Or even with that, maybe play it this Saturday or this Sunday, or play it as a double header, either before the Ballygunner St Martin's game or after the Ballygunner.
I wouldn't say you could play a game before any game at this time of the year is the only thing.
Right.
Unless it was in Croke Park.
Yeah, well, look, I just felt it's very challenging on some of these girls now, and particularly the management in regards preparation wise. I'm sure now they're probably going to have to, tweak things a small bit. I'm sure there's probably girls have plans made in regards nights out or going away or whatever. And it can kind of small bit disrupt you a small bit. Now, look, obviously, as I was talking to one lad there yesterday, and he said, Jesus, I mean, you're looking forward to it. You're still there. You're in an All Ireland final.
First world problem, I think, Mull.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. You're training over Christmas. The group are together, and look, it's probably a good problem, a great problem to have. And I think both teams will feel that they still have a great opportunity of winning the replay now,
Oh, definitely. And it's, I think, yeah, there's an element of like sacrifice, and Christmas is going to be a little bit different than you'd planned, but geez, you're still,
can I just say, like we played the Munster final in Thurles, and it was brilliant now. And obviously, it was brilliant. And even the girls even commented after, like, even to go out and, play a club match in Thurles. And then I just felt, you watch the two All-Ireland semi-finals then, you know, and you kind of, no disrespect to, now Ashbourne is a nice venue. And then there was the other place I think was the Dicksboro game in Attenroy. Was it up in Kinnegad? Was it
I think it was
Kinnegad?
Kinnegad. I think you might be
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah.
just feel for two All Ireland semi-finals. I just feel that you know, the more the county boards, or the more they open up these venues, the likes of Nolan Park or Portlaoise or even Tullamore, an All Ireland semi-final should be played in a really, really, no, not,
Provincial ground, yeah.
yeah, in a provincial ground, because look, you've seen at the weekend the All Ireland final in Crow Park, and I'd imagine the All Ireland replay will be back in Crow Park. And I mean, it's only what these girls and these ladies deserve, Michael, because they put so much into it. They train just as hard as the men. And I just think if uh, the more counties can open up their county grounds for some of these ladies and girls going forward, I think we can grow the game even more at club level,
Yeah. Yeah. Mull, we've a couple of things to finish off with. Number one is you're always a good man to look into the future. Mystic Mullane. What are you looking at? What do you see happening in the hurling scene in 2026? Whether be it winners, losers, high achievers, underachievers, anything in particular that you think might happen in 2026?
I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to the league. I'm really looking forward to the league, and I'll tell you why, Michael. Like previous years, you were saying, what are we going to get out of the league? You know, um, is there going to be an awful lot of shadow boxing? But we can only go off of last year's league, and the two teams that were in last year's league final ended up in the All Ireland final, and teams that probably struggled in the league last year, i.e., Clare, struggled
Wexford.
in Wexford as well, struggled in the championship. So I think management teams will be really homing in the league and saying, well, right, let's get a bit of momentum. Let's get a couple of wins under our belt. Again, as I touched on, how do you grow the spirit in any group? You get the feel good factor up. How do you get the feel good factor up? By winning hurling matches. And I think, that's what Liam Cattell went after last year. That's what Pat Ryan went after last year. And I actually think, it'll be very interesting to see, what Limerick's approach will be to the league off the back of that defeat to Dublin last year. I'll be very interested to see, can the Dubs now, can they kick on off the back of last year's progress? Can they find another one or two players, three players in the league that will add to last year's panel and will make them a stronger outfit? I'll be very interested to see how Brian Lohan approaches the league. The previous year they won the league, and then they pushed on and won the All Ireland. Be fascinating to see what.
No Aidan McCarthy for Clare for
No
2026.
way, no way. Well, look, are we surprised? Obviously something wasn't right there. The way it ended up. So, it's disappointing. But look, these things happen. It'll be very interesting, Clare. The mix of the young and the old. Off the back of the winning the couple of the minor. I'm sure there'll be a little sprinkle of a couple of those players. We've seen that it done Tipperary no harm last year, sprinkling a couple of the younger players in with the older lads. So it'll be very interesting. Clare, obviously, my own Waterford, I would absolutely love to see him. I wouldn't say nail the top three in Munster. Maybe get back to a Munster final. Maybe Tarry get into a Munster final. Kilkenny will be Kilkenny. Galway in year two under me, all done. Your own awfully. So I'm really looking forward to the league in contrast to the previous years.
Yeah.
And I think an awful lot of teams will be looking to hit the ground running from the get go come February, and carry that into the championship. Is there another All Ireland in Limerick? That's the big question. That is the big question. Will they bounce back? Obviously, they're putting everything in place. Caroline Curd is back in the mix. Can Tipperary do back to back for the first time in 60 years, where no other Tipperary team has gone before? How are Cork going to going to react after last year's All-Ireland collapse.
I know we say it every year, Mull, but there's some amount of narratives to look forward to, isn't there?
And that's and like Christmas will come and go. We'll be into January. I think the Munster League competition. The Munster League competition is back, and before we know it, it'll be the end of January, and we'll be back up and running again. And we'll be looking forward to the league games. But there's so much to look forward to. I'm not going to give you. I'm not going to give you a prediction now on who's going to win what, because you well know so much can happen between January and the end of next March.
I think my one prediction for 2026 and probably 2027, I think we're going to see a different Cork. And I think there'll be plenty of different personnel. I think Ben O'Connor will go for what he perceives as the most battle-hardened, mentally, physically tough team. And I hear what they're doing at the minute is fairly saucy. And they're training hard.
Well, what I don't buy into, and some of the commentary coming out of Cork, is that, it's a 3-year plan. They've 3 years to do it all.
Not at all.
No, absolutely. Off the back of what Pat Ryan is after doing, I would be saying they have to go and win the All-Ireland next year. They have the personnel. I mean, how long more do Cork supporters want to wait or have to wait? I mean, it's going on. Will be 21 years next year. So what are they going to wait? It's going to become 22, 23 years? Absolutely not. So I don't buy into that commentary. I will be saying, you know what? We have the personnel, we have the squad to go and get over the line. And as we just touched on, Michael, we keep banging the drum. I mean, they were 35 minutes away from doing it last year. They were in a commanding position at halftime. It's still a mystery to this day what happened, in that second half. Where did it all go wrong? We'll probably never get the answers to it. But don't tell me that Cork are miles away from winning an All-Ireland. Absolutely not. They're in a very, very good position. And as we've seen this year, look at where Tipperary were last year.
Yeah.
I mean, let's this time last year, Tipperary weren't even in the conversation of being All-Ireland winners. And look at how quickly they turned it around.
They had cameras following them for the whole year. Did you see that, Mull? There's a documentary coming out. The cameras following them.
I want to give it a mention. I actually did there was an event at Dillon for the Dillon Cork Foundation. I was up in Abbott. Abbott are massive sponsors of the Dillon Cork Foundation. They gave over a massive check there to Dan Cork last Thursday. I was in attendance with Liam Call. He actually got on to me. He said, "You fucker." He said, "You said it was either sink or swim." And I
said, he said it. Yeah, he reads Mull. He reads the column.
I said, "Liam, I remind you." I said, "Liam," I remind you. I said, I was probably one of the only fellas that backed you when you were rock bottom. I said, give this man a chance. I said, he will come good. But Jesus, he was in good form and really looking forward to the year. But I have to give it a mention. Abbott, massive sponsors of the Dillon Cork Foundation, saving lives all across Ireland. And it's fantastic to see,
It's an amazing legacy to leave for Dillon Cork, and for his name to carry that, and for all the screening that they're doing. They were down in my own club there a few months back as well. I think they've something like 20,000 kids screened at this stage, which is brilliant, and it'll obviously help to save lives in the long run. So yeah, a big plug. They obviously played there was the night of champions the other night. It was Limerick against Tipperary, and obviously Tipperary footballers against Kerry as well. Massive funds raised for the Dillon Cork Foundation, and there's some lovely Gansies you can buy online actually. And I put a request in for one to end up in my Christmas stocking, so I'm hoping it does. They did actually one for every county with the Dillon Cork logo on the front of it. It's lovely, so I'm hoping to be a green and red one for my own club colours landing in my stocking come Christmas Day. Mull, just to finish up, we threw it out to all the viewers and all the listeners. Ask Mull anything. We put it out there and they've put in some questions, so I'm going to fire a couple of quick ones at you here. I love this handle on YouTube at O'Dwyer, Callan McGrath. So that's Bubbles, Shamey and Noel McGrath asks, any chance John is renting the van out for Airbnb? The amount of questions, Mull, I get asked about the van, I swear to God.
The Mullane and the van, yeah, Jesus, that was taken off, isn't it?
What's behind you, Mull? Maybe we no. Do you know what?
No, I actually have a rental van at the moment. I'm actually due a new van tomorrow. I ran into a bit of difficulty there yesterday. So, I mean, I couldn't do this podcast. I mean, I'm on the road. I mean, I can't just pull in. I'm not like you now, where I can have a life of luxury.
Hold on now.
Where I can just do where I can pull in at any time, or I can stay at home. I'm on the road, son, so work has to be done. So if you want the podcast done, I pull in. I'm actually down here in Wexford at the moment in a car park. So hey, look, to all listeners out there, you get what you want. I'm here, and you get the podcast every Monday or every Tuesday, you know?
It's only a matter of time before we have some sort of either a GoPro or a dash cam or something following you around. And you know what? It's made for it, Mull. Picking up Larry O'Gorman and driving him around Wexford for half an hour and having a chat. Picking up Story or something like that. We'll get this. Will happen. Trust me, this will happen. Next question in, Mull, is Richard Britton on X. He just said, it's a nice one. Who would you like standing beside you in a bar fight? JJ Delaney or Jackie Tyrrell?
Oh, Jesus. Jesus. We're both two tough yokes, I tell you. Jesus. I don't know, you always have to be wary of the quiet chap, don't you? You know, the JJ, you know, doesn't say anything, just goes about his business in a nice quiet fashion. So
I think Jackie would get the job done in real obvious sensational fashion, but JJ will get the job done just a real quiet. No one would even see the fight going on. No one would even see a lad being choked out in the corner.
Well, I'll tell you, if you want the two good men to have behind you,
yeah, you won't get
in
much
a tag
better.
team, I tell you, they're right there to have.
Good stuff. Mark McCartan on X says, ask Mullane about his love of football and going back to play it after his county career. Presume he means soccer, probably, does he?
Yeah, would have played a bit of schoolboy soccer back in the day, yeah. Actually would have played with did I ever tell you the story about John O'Shea?
Yeah, you played with John O'Shea, yeah.
Yeah, but there was fun. He would have been in my same class in school now, but O'Shea was class. But there's one story. We had a super team in De La Salle College. We'd Shane Robinson, Kevin Whittle, O'Shea. But O'Shea was over and back. I told this story before. I think I told it to Des Cal and Alan Cawley. But O'Shea was over and back to on trials with he was over with Celtic, Liverpool, Blackburn. But I think we were in fifth year. And we used to get to school out the back in De La Salle College, and O'Shea could be 100 bodies, and O'Shea would be nutmegging people, and you just always knew he was gonna make it. Like he was brilliant in school, just had a lovely way about him. Really top class lad, and you can see why he's excelling now with Ireland. But we had a great team back in De La Salle College, and whoever won the All Irelands that year, Michael, was going to represent Ireland in Peru that summer.
Lord.
And we played the Munster final, I think, down in Turner's Cross against a college from Cork. And we ended up winning 1-0. O'Shea didn't play that final because he was over in trials. Well, we got O'Shea back for the semi-final, and we were playing Salesians College from Kildare in the semi-final down in Buckley Park down in Kilkenny. And it was 0-0 after 90 minutes, and I went to extra time. And I remember I was on the left wing, Shane Robinson was on the right. I remember Robbo, he clipped over the ball, and I made him my left peg volley into the back of the net. We went 1-0 up. It's about 5 minutes to go in extra time. And then Salesians got a poxy equaliser to bring it to penalties. 4-4 in penalties. Who steps up to hit our last penalty? No other than John O'Shea. Misses the penalty. Your men score the penalty, go to the final, win the final 3-0, and then I think they went to Peru that summer. So
Presume you held it against them, did you?
I haven't been in his company since. He'd be always over and back. But Jesus, what an ambassador for Waterford. I think he got voted the number one sports person of all time in Waterford last year. And you know, when you consider amount of the great sports people that we had down through the years. But couldn't have happened to a nicer chap, like, really top class lad that was Josh,
You were mentioning about the nutmegs in the schoolyard. At least there's plenty of lads that know how Luis Figo feels.
Luis Figo, yeah.
Last one, Mull, and it's a Waterford related question. Fionn C on X says, ask Mullers, does he think Waterford can win an All Ireland in the near future?
Look, stranger things can happen. I think, look, our goal this year, and I keep banging the drum, and it's so hard to achieve it, is to try and get into the top three, and get into a Munster final, and try and get back to Croke Park. There could be one last kick in this team. You have Caleb Lyons back this year. You have Jack Fagan back. There's have to be no retirements. So you just don't know what could play out next year. And there probably is one more another year or two left, a kick left in this team. Now, obviously, if this generation don't get over the line, we're probably waiting on the next generation. Then the current minors coming up. They were a lovely minor group last year. They won the minor All Ireland. From what I can gather, the minor group in 2 years' time are equally as good.
That's the one Darragh O'Sullivan and Dave Franks are after taking on.
So if we could get maybe another team coming behind that team, and then you still have the likes of Mark Fitzgerald, Patrick Fitzgerald, they'll probably become the more experienced lads when they hit 20, 27, 28. So not losing any hope yet. But I can promise you one thing: I won't. The thing of riding down a horse naked, that's totally gone off the table, Michael. That's totally gone off the table. 10 years later now, it's mad the way time has gone. Like, that's nearly 10 years ago now, like 2017, like, and it's just on like the blink of an eye, like, just goes to show you, with some of those players that were 2016, 2017, your career can go can come and go in the blink of an eye, like,
Yeah. There were some great questions. We got in viewer questions. We got plenty of emails in as well to indogapodcast@independent.ie. Just fire it in. You can ask Mull anything or ask Pat Spillane anything, and we'll read them out on the shows at different stages. Last question I want to put to you, Mull, or not a question even, but your old teammate Paul Flynn was inducted into the Munster GA Hall of Fame at the weekend. I have a piece of him in the paper tomorrow. I was chatting to him about Ballygunner, and we segued off into structures and stuff like that, and he kept going. It's like that, episode of Father Ted, the Christmas special. The more he talked, the better it got, and he just kept talking. It was great stuff, real shooting from the hip kind of stuff. But I remember even earlier on in the summer, you came up with that one, "Hey Flinner," that one with what was it, chicken or the chips or something like that. What are your memories of Paul? Like, what a gifted player, like what a ball striker.
Look, a flawed genius. He was our Maradona. Like, you were just gonna just leave him go and do whatever he wanted to do. Like, leave him go and express himself. He was probably the first superstar that in Waterford that kind of came onto the scene. In '92. I mean, you look back in that, they probably should have won the minor and could have won the minor in '92. I remember his performance in the Munster final against Tipperary that year. I think he got 3-3 or 3-6. Then got called into the under-21 setup, and they won the All Ireland in '92. And even when I think back at what he achieved with Ballygunner, I mean, Ballygunner's success now, I would say a lot of it is built off of what Paul Flynn done for Ballygunner. I mean, if you go back to when Flynn came on the scene with Ballygunner in '92, well, in the early '90s, they only had 3 county championships. They hadn't won a county championship since back in the '60s, Michael. And then Flynn came on the scene, and was the star of the show. Like, was just burning it up, and even to go and watch Ballygunner back then was. There was the amount of neutrals that would come and watch Ballygunner off the back of Flynn playing for Ballygunner, and obviously their academy was put in place then, and the structures are right, and they're putting in massive work out there. But I'd say if you were to ask an awful lot of these players that are playing now, the one player that they, would have looked on back in the past that would have inspired them to want to play the Ballygunner, the one name they would have said straight away sticking out would have been Paul Flynn. I mean, Justin McCarthy said his wrists were the nearest thing to the Christy Ring's wrists. I mean, that's a compliment in its own right. I mean, he was just he could do anything there, Michael. That's what just made him.
I'd imagine we saw stuff on game day that was class, like the Dipper and various scores like that. But I'd say what you saw in training.
Like when he went, like, he's the best lad I've ever seen to step up and hit a semi-penalty or a penalty. And I'll never forget a story back in 2000 and 2003, the county final back in 2003, the kind of Ballygunner Mount Sinai rivalry back then was massive. And I remember being up on the bank at Welsh Park, and it was the last puck of the ball. I think one of the Ballygunner players got fouled. And there was a load of lads waiting on Mount Sinai. I think they were in doubles, trebles, singles, for massive money now. The docket's written out. And Ballygunner got awarded a kind of a free, but it was kind of like it wasn't. It was within range, but it was a bit out from the goal still. And Mount Sinai had about 6-7 players on the line, and I remember to this day, lads were just getting dockets, and they were just ripping them up and throwing them on the ground before he even stepped up. They hit the free. They were like kind of this is. I'm done. Next thing, bang, top corner, looking, and there's the umpire raising for the green flag. But he was just, as you just touched on, some of the stuff he done in training. You're kind of going, you're looking back and you're going, how did he actually do that? Like, I mean, he was just a flawed genius, and that was the one beautiful thing you never knew. And that's the one most exciting thing that, got bums on seats, is because I don't think the opposition knew what he was going to do. The only person that knew what he was going to do was Flynn himself. And just the unexpected. I mean, the unexpected of that dipper in the Munster final. And geez, when you even think back about it, imagine him now playing nowadays in the ball getting played into him, in a two-man full forward line. Geez, I even say to myself, if you look back in yourself and Flynn could be in the full forward line, one in every 3 or one in every 4 or one in every 5 balls might come in. And some of the times we would have been in there, and it could have been myself, Kelly and Flynn, and you're kind of saying, Jesus, lads, will you ever let the ball in? Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we didn't care what way the ball came in once it was just delivered in fast. But could you imagine Flynn in the modern game in a two-man full forward line today, and you get that diagonal ball sprayed into him? What player would kind of remind me of Flynn today? A bit of John McGrath, mix of John McGrath, kind of hoggy between the two of them, like, but he was deceptively quick, like very, very quick off a 5 yards. And even like there's, back in the day where he wouldn't be he wouldn't be gone on the league, where, come March, you'd be kind of looking at him and saying, Jesus, he's going to struggle to make the championship team. And then 4 or 5 weeks, by bang.
Them boys know when they need to be right and what they need to do to get right in a short time frame.
Yeah, whatever he would have done outside the training ground within 4 or 5 weeks, come the start of the nail by, he was just lean out and ready to go. But yeah, and you know what? Really, really good crack on a night out. Jesus, there was many a good night we had. many a good night we had in his pub. Back in the day, really, really good crack now, really witty now, and you'd have to know Flinner. Like, if you didn't know him, you kind of say, oh Jesus, but when you do get to know him and he leaves you into his circle, he's Jesus, he's great crack. And I tell you now, Michael, he's very, very, I wouldn't say he, what he's after doing in the coaching world in the last couple of years. I mean, he's after winning an under-21, won the minor last year. The Kamogie girls told me when he was in with Waterford, they loved him as well. They got to an All-Ireland final. So I think even going forward for the next couple of years, whenever Joxer's turn, whenever Joxer does get his turn, if Joxer in the next couple of years, whenever Peter decides he probably has enough, I would imagine Joxer will be the next man to step up after he serves his time with the under-20. I think, Jesus, having Flynn in around it, because like he hasn't really been in around a senior Waterford setup yet. And I think it will be a massive, massive plus for Waterford hurling going forward, because I do know that, an awful lot of the underage players, they think so highly of him as a coach, and having him in around the Waterford setups,
Yeah.
and that's totally evident with the success they've had the last couple of years, under his watch.
Well, great stuff as always. Happy Christmas to you and yours. Enjoy. And I just say to all our listeners and viewers, like, massive numbers listening and viewing this year. Great feedback. Every time I walk across the pitch after a game looking for an interview with someone, there's someone coming up saying, Jesus, great old crack, keep the podcast going and that. We really enjoy it, and we will, if we don't see or we'll hear from you in the new year. We'll loads of podcasts coming again. And another season is just around the corner.
Well, we have to have a Christmas night out next year now.
Yeah,
I said that to you. And you know what we're going to do? You know what we'll do next year? All right? We'll open it up to the people who listen in the pod. We'll give them 2 free tickets to the Christmas night out, and we'll give them a night out. So we'll kind of have them as a mystery guest. You love wrestling. Remember the Undertaker? Was it the Undertaker? was it the Royal Rumble or some Survivor Series, or was it? Remember, he made the mystery. He was a mystery. He was a mystery. The mystery one year. Remember,
mystery opponent. I think one of the years. Yeah. Jesus.
So we might kind of have it as open it up to a competition, and leave it for 2 people if they want to come along to the Christmas night out.